Hey there, it's Louisa Tannermunson. Welcome back to the Feel Good Astrology Show. So we are looking at the December update for 2023. Can't believe it's December. I really can't. Wow, what a year it's been, eh? So in this month ahead, what am I going to be talking about? Well, I'm going to break it down on a week-by-week basis and talk about the energies, the planets moving and this, that, and the other, and some of the most notable aspects. So if you're interested in how those aspects play out, then watch on. You will find that this is organized on a week-by-week basis, so you can just check in the chapters below, and that'll give you all you need to know. And I probably am also going to do a year wrap up, so I will talk about some of the things that we've been dealing with this year in 2023 so that we can get ready for 2024. But I'm sure some of that will be covered in this as well, because it's kind of inescapable. It's kind of hard to not pay attention to it. And for those of you that are interested in 2024, I was actually on a live stream last night on Jasmina Brozovich channel. And also was there with Nicholas from Sparkles of Gold, and also with Fernanda from Hitchhiking Stars. So we had a really great chat about what we think is likely to be coming up, and you can see that on this channel. It's on the videos. It's streamed live to this channel, so it's there for you if you're interested. Anyway, let's get cracking into December. And yeah, at the start of this show, I'm really wondering, how are you doing so far? How are your nerves? Did they fry much in November? I mean, let's face it, October was pretty big. And if I'm going to talk from a personal experience, I would say October brought up so many shifts for me, but those shifts didn't really occur until November. So, with the eclipses, what I found was I was starting to question things internally, but maybe lacking the balls to do anything about it. And then in November, lots of things came up that I found really disturbing, really upsetting. Not necessarily really big world events or anything like that, but sort of internal stuff that really wanted to be birthed. So yeah, I've noticed a lot of change. And in terms of clients I'm working with right now, it really feels like, there is a very big shift going on. So yes, it's with that mindset that we are starting December. So let's have a look at week one then. Now, the first thing to note, I'm just going to quickly, this is just a bit of an ephemeris so that you can see the planets. And if you're not used to using an ephemeris, this is quite helpful. You can get this from astro.com, which is a great place to go to. Now, in the ephemeris, it always lists the planets in order using their symbols. So if you know the symbols, you're okay. And then it lists all the days of the month, and you'll see the rest of those as we go into the other weeks. But it gives the astrological position of all of those planets throughout the zodiac, essentially the wheel that we perceive around us. So the big ecliptic wheel. So as we're going into December, we're already in the sign of Sagittarius. So we're just a little way in. At 8 degrees, between 8 and 14 degrees. So anyone around, having their birthday around this time, this is going to be quite an interesting week, with the sun coming back around to where it was at the time, place, and date of your birth. The moon here is going from the sign of Cancer into Leo and Virgo and then Libra. Now, what I notice about those particular signs, if we think about it, as we're going into December, the moon in Cancer, I think, likes to get a few things done. It's a little bit emotional, but it's, I think it likes to feel like all of the dots are made and all the T's are crossed. There is this very strong need to home make and to make things right. And you can't do that when there's lots of things left over. So I do think as we get going, we've got a little bit of an emotional bind moving us forwards. And then, of course, the moon goes into the sign of Leo, which I love. I find it a very warm and easily expressed energy. So we might be a bit more dramatic and quite colourful. And it's a nice feeling. I really think this moon in Leo really gives us that sort of Christmas feeling. So we might be going wandering, starting to do a bit of shopping, noticing the lights and things, and it's a nice experience. Then it goes into Virgo, and we start to most likely, especially seeing as we've also got Saturn in the sign of Pisces right now, I imagine that's going to bring up a little bit of isolation or a feeling that we're slightly not quite right. So I would say, that on the 5th, we may well feel a little bit out of sorts because that opposition with Saturn often brings a slightly lowered mood. And then on the next day, on the 6th, as the moon is at the tail end of Virgo, you might also find that the opposition that it has to Neptune will be starting something off. We might feel a little bit disillusioned and wonder what it's all about. But then as we end the week, the moon is in the sign of Libra. And when it's there, again, we've got that other feeling of, okay, it's time to crack on again. We can't stop. We must pull up our socks and get going. The moon in Libra really does want things to be really nice and neat and organized, but in a kind of stylish way. So it's a great day. We're going to have Libra moon on Thursday, Friday, and possibly into Saturday. So that's a good day, a good time to go shopping if you're buying for people with lots of discernment and style and who don't like crappy presents. that's your time to get going. So the other planets then that are really changing. I mean, there's no change with Mars. He's in Sagittarius, I think, all month. In December. He's in the sign of Sagittarius all month, and he's fairly well expressed there. We're likely to be a little bit shorter than usual, but quite optimistic. We're wanting things to go well, but we let you know if it doesn't quite happen according to plan. So there is a genuinely sort of optimistic feel there and a need to get things done. It's kind of playful. If I was in your shoes right now, sort of preparing for quite a busy month, a month where we prepare to get things done so that we can shut them down, so we can rest and relax before going back to our normal lives again. I would say, we want to be playful as we're doing this. We don't want to get too bogged down with stuff. We want to relieve ourselves a little bit. There is this need to be sort of like playfully active, so it might involve meeting up for a few drinks with people. I don't know, just not being too cautious, I guess, is a great way of describing it. Now, Venus, she starts the week off in the sign of Libra, and then she spends a lot of the month in the sign of Scorpio. Now, Venus has been great in Libra. She enjoys it. And to be fair, she's had a long old stint in Leo this year. So getting back into her own style and her own sign would have been great. As she goes into the sign of Scorpio, her feelings are getting a lot more deeper. So we can expect the flow of life to get a little bit more intense as she goes there, because Venus is one of those planets that really does work with flow. She is also in this month ahead going to go into opposition with Jupiter, and these are both known as the benefics. So Jupiter's in Taurus and Venus is in the sign of Scorpio. So as she goes into opposition there, that's going to create a little bit of tension between the two great feeling planets. I think it could, we could actually go over the top. It's very easily done with these oppositions. We might not quite sense what's going on and miscalculate the situation. So I'd be a bit cautious about sort of big public events and piss ups around the time of that. But I'll let you know those dates as we go through this. Now, Mercury is going to be in an interesting place this month. He goes into the sign of Capricorn almost straight away as we hit December. And then he goes forwards, and then on the 13th, he's going to start to go retrograde. So he's sort of balancing in between Capricorn and Sagittarius. As we go forwards, I will point out where this is happening in your charts. And also, when I do the individual forecasts for each of the signs, I will also put in a comment about where Mercury retrograde is likely to hit you and how you might express it. So let's have a look at week one in the form of a chart. So this is a chart from literally the 1st of December at midnight. And I'm just commenting. I'm not commenting really on the moon positions because the moon whizzes through quite fast. But all of these positions here, they always, like the sun will move into like she will apply, that's what we say, she'll be applying into a conjunction or a trine or a square or opposition. She'll be moving in towards an aspect, and then she'll move out of it. So even though I've given the dates of when these aspects are at their maximum, at their tightest, when they're exact, you will feel the effects leading into it for a few days and after. So the way I see it is, these are some of the energies that we've got going on pretty much all week, in the first week of December. So the first thing to consider is Mars and the Sun are in a conjunction all the way through, and for a lot of December as well. They came into a conjunction, or what's known as a cazimi, on the 18th of November. And if you're interested in that, there's a video I posted about that last week. In fact, it's in my Mars folder, so check it out. I give a forecast for everybody about the next 2 years Mars cycle that's taking us to the 9th of January 2026. So, we are still in that very strongly energized Mars state, which I quite enjoy. But actually, I'm born with the Sun and Mars in the sign of Sagittarius, so this kind of makes sense to me. We've also got Mercury in a sextile to Saturn. That's on the 2nd of December. So here's Saturn here at 1 degree in the sign of Pisces, and here's Mercury. Mercury's obviously going into the sign of Capricorn, and then he backs out later. What this means is, whilst we've got this sextile with Saturn in this first week, we will come back to another sextile in Saturn. So I like to think that where we get these aspects come up again because of a retrograde, then usually, here's how I see it. I think there's some extra business that we're doing, so whatever's activated by this energy needs to be replayed. Maybe we didn't do it full enough. What did we miss out? But essentially what we've got here is this really great kind of, I think it's really positive energy. Mercury is about our thinking. It's about the way we communicate. But I also think it's the way we're transacting. I really see Mercury as a delivery system, so Mercury could be delivering presents, and you could be buying things. It's all about buying and selling. I mean, if you think about communication and emails and all that jazz, a thought happens here and it goes over there. And so there's always something moving with Mercury, and it's always moving really fast. So we've got the element of movement and Saturn. Now, Saturn isn't known for being fast, but Saturn is known for being effective. So I really see this aspect in week 1 as showing up the need for effective communication, the fact that we can have really good, long-lasting thoughts and work things out. I think it's quite strategic. This kind of lineup with Mercury and Saturn is really prevalent in the charts of people that plan, that assess, that get things done. It's also, I think, one of the hallmarks of people with things like architecture skills, designing skills, because, anything that's designed, if it has that kind of standard and classic form, it's likely to last and go the distance. And that kind of longevity you really see with Saturn. Saturn is all about form. So I love this. We could be making some very well-formed thoughts during this time, which is pretty good. Mercury is also going into the sign of Capricorn as well. He's a lot happier in Capricorn than he is in the sign of Sagittarius. So I think our thinking is going to clear up a little bit. We're not going to be so away with the fairies. We're going to be coming back down to reality and really starting to pull our finger out and get on with stuff. There's a few things to attend to. Let's put it that way. Venus is in a square to Pluto. So let's find Venus. She's at the tail end of Libra here, and we'll be going into Scorpio soon. And where's Pluto? There he is. So you can see there's that red line there indicating the square position between them. So this is kind of interesting because Venus, I've actually got Venus and Pluto in a square in my chart actually. But, Venus is all about flow and beauty and benevolence and love and things going really well. And she's a real kind of martini girl. She just wants everything to be great and to feel good. When she's connected with Pluto, she can get a bit badass. And, she's in a square here. She's not that in the flow, in fact, and she's already getting ready to go into the sign of Scorpio, which is a bit like Venus being in a connection with Pluto. Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio. So it does feel like whatever, like the square that she's in with Pluto is actually getting us ready for her going into the sign of Scorpio. You know, she's a little bit more intense. She's a little bit more controlling. So just, I guess as we're going into week one, we need to remember that it's not just about having the brain power to plan things really, really well and effectively and efficiently, but we're really quite intense about our flow. We really want things done properly. And, you know, there's, I think, a stronger need for loyalty and trust at these times. So we're not likely to want these kind of flippant, oh yeah, I'll do that kind of agreements. We're really wanting people to take action, and we really need to take action ourselves. So I see this as quite a difficult time. And where action isn't taking place, I think the Venus and Pluto energy together is likely to get us questioning, oh, why hasn't that worked? So what I would say is really don't allow yourself, don't terrorize yourself. Just try and stay as balanced as you can as you feel the sort of equilibrium get a bit stressed. So yeah, Venus is going into Scorpio. And when she goes into the sign of Scorpio, she's actually creating a trine with Saturn. So, you know, I actually also think this is another indication that we're likely to get things fulfilled in this first week in particular. You know, Venus in a trine with Saturn is actually quite beneficial, I think. You know, so we've got the ease and flow and joy and the desire to get things done, matching with the longevity and the form and the responsibility of Saturn. I can't really see what's going to go wrong here. So, you know, her intensity with Pluto and her intensity going into the sign of Scorpio, you know, she's got an intense desire, or we have, like collectively, we've have an intense desire to get things done really well. And we've got the class. Yeah, I would say Venus in a trine with Saturn is classy. You know, it's about getting the right thing done at the right time in the right way. And formal is kind of good, which is interesting because, you know, we're in Sagittarius times where, let's face it, formality normally flies out the window. So interesting week. So even though there's that strong Sagittarius drive, which is usually slapdash and jovial and a little bit over the top, we've actually got some very I think conservative and balanced and measured ways of being in the way we're interacting with people, and also the way we're feeling. So yeah, a very interesting week ahead. Now, I did at the start over here, I did say that obviously we've got the moon going into the sign of Leo and is going to be in Leo over this first weekend of December. So the Saturday, the Sunday, and into the Monday as well. Well, during that time, in particular on the Saturday, so Friday night and into Saturday, that moon position is also going to be in opposition to Pluto. So just be aware of that. You know, that evening, the early hours of the morning is likely to trigger us somewhat. We might be, you know, really begging for control and order on certain things. And yeah, we might become a bit of an obstacle to our own progress. So watch out for that tendency. So on to week 2 then. What's going on with week 2? So yeah, Mercury is going retrograde on the 13th. So goes into the sign of Capricorn, then goes retrograde. Now, if you've got something in your chart at 8 degrees in the sign of Capricorn, it would be interesting to know or to ponder what is, you know, where, you know, what it is that Mercury is about to go retrograde on. You can expect, you know, something to for there to be a bit of a joint theme. So for instance, my Venus is at 8 degrees 31 in the sign of Capricorn. And so Mercury is going to go retrograde almost exactly on it, which is kind of fascinating, really. So how is this likely to affect me? Well, wherever Venus is in my chart and what it represents to me in my chart is likely to get possibly a bit confused, possibly rethought about. So it might be that all of the issues and situations in my life that I associate with Venus in my chart needs to be rethought about. So for instance, if yours is Mars, you might need to rethink your vitality in the area of your chart that's taking place in. But it's worth considering. And of course, you know, Mercury is going to go forwards again from the 2nd of January, but it will take almost until the end of January before Mercury passes over that point again and sort of moves beyond that. So just be aware of what situations come up around the time of the 8th, because it might represent something that takes a little bit longer to work through. So, if something comes up during that time that you think, oh, that's a miscommunication, or I really didn't think that through very well, pay it some attention. Don't let it fester. Do something with it. So Venus is in the sign of Scorpio all the way through. Mars is still in the sign of Sagittarius. All these other planets are all, going as is. What we've got here is the moon going from the sign of Libra into the sign of Scorpio, then in Sag, and then into Capricorn. So let's have a look at the week 2. Now, during this time, we've got the new moon in Sagittarius on the 12th, and we'll have a look at that chart in a second. Yeah, there it is. Let me just go back. So the overall patterns of week 2, as we're going into it, the sun's in a trine to Chiron, which I think is really helpful in healing. It gives us a chance to, I think, feel quite in control, feel a sense of mastery about how we might be less stressed than usual, how we might be managing things. I always think that's very helpful. I notice that in the charts of people that heal and coach and care for others and really want to work, with, like they're always working to help heal not just other people, but situations. They're always trying to find out what the weakness is, find out what the vulnerability is, and then, take action on it. So it's a pretty good, I think, energy for this week ahead. This very, very strong trine energy is perfect. We've also got Mercury in a trine to Jupiter, which I really love as well, because this is grounded in the earth energy. So the sun and Chiron, wanting to help things, resolve things, sort things out is great. But then you've got Mercury working at something in quite an optimistic way. Mercury is also taking a punt. Mercury is in the sign of Capricorn, so that's pretty beneficial in terms of really getting some success on something. So I think these energies can all kind of run together. There's this feeling that things are moving forwards. Now, during this week and just before the new moon, Venus goes into opposition with Jupiter. Again, these two planets are known as being benevolent, but Jupiter, the dark side of Jupiter is people think that everything's okay, and they can get a bit complacent, and they can get a bit arrogant and a bit proud and really take offense. And the Jupiter personality can get really verbose and a bit over the top with sarcasm and stuff. Venus, when she gets stressed out, and in particular in the sign of Scorpio, she can get really quite mean and quite bitter and possibly a bit jealous. So you've got this potential that these two benevolent energies that usually work quite well together start to really rancor. So the Taurus side gets really proud and arrogant and really difficult, and the Venus side is getting really like, I trusted you, really kind of suspicious. So watch out if there's something going on in your life whereby things are blowing up a little bit. I always think oppositions are representing something that's not working inside of us. The opposition really shows what we're projecting onto other people and what other people are projecting onto us. And essentially, you can only really project because you're out of sorts in yourself. There's something in yourself that doesn't quite feel right. You're in a position of polarity or separation inside your own personality. So, look at where your possessiveness to things going a certain way are offended by a complacency and a feeling of everything feels so good. Why bother with the details? Because I think that thing could really explode. And so if you're holding both potentials and hanging out with people that are one way or another, there could be a bit of a reaction. And also, Venus, when she's connected in slightly stressful positions with Jupiter, she can go over the top with her sexual, sensuous energies. And of course, Jupiter is really quite happy to just hop right in and dive into different sexual energies. So you could also, especially, the fact that Venus is in the sign of Scorpio, and Mars is very horny and randy in the sign of Sagittarius. So it could also really like line up for this time of wanton abandonment. Like it's a perfect time if you want to get naughty. It's a perfect time to have a little fling and whatnot. But the circumstances are such that the moment somebody starts to care or say, hey, this isn't quite what we agreed to, it's all going to blow up. So yeah, be careful. Watch those energies, especially as they're leading into the new moon in Sagittarius, because then you're going to have the moon and Mars and the sun together in the sign of Sagittarius, all in a trine to Chiron. So we feel like we're healing, we feel really gung-ho, we feel very sort of motivated in our heart, our hormones, our sexual energies, and also our personality. So things could get quite interesting. And then literally the day after the new moon, Mercury goes retrograde. So it almost, if I was to describe this chart as a real life situation, I would say boy meets girl, or however you like it, person meets person, is really sort of excited, having a great time. They get it on, they hang out for a few days, and then literally the moment after, it starts to go wonky because we realize that there's a practical, it wasn't based on anything other than the feelings and that it felt good in the moment, but it wasn't based on anything sound, like, it wasn't based on really concrete foundations. So yeah, just watch out for that. It's not necessarily a done deal. It might not go wrong, but just be cautious and make sure you've got, that you understand that anything happening at this time is likely to be overfelt and over enjoyed. There's nothing wrong with obviously enjoying yourself, but I love the thought that right now people can enjoy themselves, but also really feel like they matter. And of course, when things go a little bit south, what people can come away from these situations with is this feeling of, I'm not good enough, here I am again, and it can reinforce a really bad pattern. So that's the only reason I'm sharing that. Oh yeah, and this really adds into it as well, and this is great. And if you get into a negative mind track, it could actually go the opposite way. So the sun in a trine to the north node. So yeah, there's the north node, and it's during this week, it's coming into a trine. So it starts off in its trine with Chiron. It's already in a conjunction with Mars. Then it's energized. The sun's energized by the new moon. So it just feels really great, and everything's all new and fresh and adventurous and stuff. And then, this trine with the north node, it feels like what we're going through feels right. It feels like this is the time to do it. And it feels very adventurous and refreshing. And, like the north node in the sign of Aries is helping us to express ourselves more and to be more independent, be more mindful as what's mine, what's yours, and this, that, and the other. So people are taking more risks, I think. Then it's mixed in with all those Sagittarian energies. It could be really great. Like you really could be going in the right direction for you, in a place where it feels truthful and honest and right and really authentic for you. But if you've just had a bit of a dalliance that has led you down the wrong path, you could end up saying, oh, this is just my luck, this is the karma that I'm on, because north node is very much attached to this feeling of karma or the path or our destiny. So watch out for that. Let's have a look at this new moon chart now. As new moon charts go, I really like it. I really like it. We've got the sun and the moon and Mars all in a conjunction together. There's these lovely trines to Chiron and also to the north node. So we are likely to feel quite elevated and expanded, which is fantastic. But the ruler of Sagittarius is Jupiter. Jupiter is essentially kind of like ruling our sun and the moon and the new moon and the Mars, and also Ceres there, who I haven't even mentioned, but let's just talk about the planets. So Jupiter is really ruling these, and Jupiter's in the sign of Taurus. It's been there a while. It's going to be there a while longer. It'll be changing signs next May, June time, 2024. But right now he's in the sign of Taurus, and it's about comfort, and it's about expanding into feeling more natural. So, this new moon, if you could express it really beautifully, it would be, how can I connect with another human in a really natural way? How can I meet and share time with people and have fun and be merry with people in a really natural way, an unaffected way? How can I feel freedom in the relationships that I've got? They're the questions I would be asking myself, especially seeing as, Jupiter is in opposition to Venus in the sign of Scorpio. It's likely to raise the tempo somewhat in terms of our emotions. But I would turn it back and say, how can we make this all go ahead in a really truthful, energetic, and honest and natural way? So if you've got anything around the 20 degrees in the sign of Sagittarius up to, I would say, up to sort of 25, 26, and from 15, that's going to be quite a strong energy shift for you, and it's going to be really nice. It's kind of emphasizing that side of your chart so that you can make the most of it. It's a great opportunity to, I think, reconnect to the soul of that part of your Sagittarian energy. So yeah, happy birthday if your birthday's around that time. It should be quite a dynamic year ahead for you. Let's go into week 3 then. So as we're looking into week 3, we're coming to the end of the sign of Sagittarius. As you can see, it's going to 28 degrees. Oh, there's my birthday on the 20th. Happy birthday to me. We've got Mercury still retrograde. Venus is still plodding on through the sign of Scorpio. Mars is still in Sag. There's nothing else really to focus on. So let's just look at the chart. I said there's nothing to focus on, but when we come to the end of Sagittarius, we get into the sign of Capricorn, and that's coming in week 4. Just to sow the seeds there, we've got the solstice, the winter solstice, that's coming up on the 22nd. So I always see these season changes, the solstices and the 2 equinoxes, as really setting the scene for the next season ahead. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing a video about that one as well. So watch out for that. Anyway, week 3 then. So we've got Mars now in a trine with Chiron. So there's similar themes, like before we had the sun involved. So, and the sun is still involved in this trine, but the sun is coming out of it. The sun is separating from that trine. But like with the sun, it's like we have this desire, it suits our ego to be involved in healing things and resolving things. Whereas, as Mars gets involved, we're actually taking action about getting things done. So I love that. I really love that a lot. And the sun is in that lovely trine with the North Node. But the sun is now in a square with Neptune. He's going, whatever you want to call it. The sun is going to be in a square with Neptune. Exactly on the 17th, and this square is going to last us quite some time, I have to say. It's going to feel pretty strong, I think, over Christmas. Neptune is one of the planets that we talk about in terms of higher consciousness and higher love. It's like a higher harmonic of Venus. However, I also think that Neptune is about our connection to ourselves, our connection to a sense of faith, which also has a sort of Jupiter theme. But I see it as a place where we go to lose ourselves. Now, I see it in 2 ways, so we can lose ourselves in a really connected way, i.e., so many people talk about oneness and awakening and how they feel connected to everything that is on this plane or planet, whatever you think of it as. And then you've got the lower energies of the Neptune vibration, which could be, how do I forget about who I am? So on one level, we're wanting to lose ourselves because we feel so magnificent, and we realize that actually what we are is this spiritual being, and we just want to, make merry with everyone. We just want to feel that expanded sense. And at the other end, we absolutely can't stand being ourselves, and we want to lose the consciousness of ourselves almost. And so we merge with things that excite us and that we can use to forget us. So it's an interesting planet. And, most people that have got something very strong, like, to do with Neptune in their charts, they spend a lot of their early years, I think, um, working out some of the lower energies of Neptune. And then as we get older and older and older, if we're lucky, we work those kinks out and we realize actually, where we want to be. But actually now from the viewpoint I'm at right now, I'm actually now seeing that the higher end elements of Neptune, that higher promise of connecting with everything and feeling woo, feeling all woo woo, I'm now starting to think actually that's just as unbalanced, because it really, for a lot of people, they're rushing to leave their body, they're rushing to feel connected spiritually but not in their body. And whereas the other end, we forget who we are but we really feel it in our body. It can be a real sort of like bodily indulgence, like with sex and drugs and like fine wine and all sorts, all sorts of debauchery. But like that midpoint, where we're actually contented being ourselves and we can keep, we've got a great relationship with our inner spirit, with that sense of who we are. Actually, that's where I'm more aspiring to be myself. But you make your own decisions on that. But this energy is interesting, so the sun, which is representing the ego, is in a square to Neptune. It's, where are we on this continuum during this time? And Neptune has this awful reputation about deception. And yeah, we might be realizing that we've been deceived about a lot of things. So Neptune shows all that's hidden, but some things are hidden for a reason. But it almost, beyond the veils, we might be able to see what's beyond some of our veils, and we get a sense of things. Neptune is where our intuition comes in. So there is this kind of very strange relationship, or difficult, or irritating connection to our intuition. And we could blame our intuition, or we could just actually realize that we need to kind of forgive what has gone unseen. And if we're lucky, we're able to move on and find a way through it. There's so many different layers and levels and veils with Neptune. It's very, very tricky. Just as an aside, I should say, a lot of clients that come to astrologers, they come because Pluto's going over one of their angles, or Uranus, or Neptune, or Chiron. They're the main four, I would say. And or all of those planets are going over somebody's sun or their moon. They're the main reasons: the sun, moon, and ascendant. And I also, actually, all the angles. I see that one of these outers is going over one of these areas and really creating havoc. But another thing that I notice in the charts of people that seem to come my way is a lot of people have got a very strong Neptune on the angles at birth, and that can create a lot of doubts about the area of life, and not necessarily a feeling of great balance in terms of, is this really good for me? Is this really bad for me? Boundaries are really difficult to define with a very strong Neptune, especially on the angles. So yeah, interesting times. So seeing, if you've already got a pre-existing Neptune condition, it's funny that I said that, because, doctors now, if you go to hospitals and you get tests and stuff, they'll give you your pre-existing conditions, which maybe I shouldn't comment on because I don't want to get this video banned. But, I'm really like skeptical of all these pre-existing conditions. But there, I said it, you might have a pre-existing awareness of boundary stuff, or mistrust, upset about deception, and a feeling of, well, if my faith in and trust in this has been rocked, what does that mean for the rest of my life? So if you've got that sort of predisposition, then really through December, right the way beyond Christmas, you really want to do something to feel more secure, and to realize what matters in terms of the information that you're perceiving. Is it, is this something that you can get clarity on? Can you get some coaching? If you've got a trust issue about something, where do you need to go to get it sorted out? Try and find yourself in the best place of inner calm as you can, so that as things evolve, rather than saying, oh yeah, I've been deceived again, or God, who can you trust? Actually, you could look at life in quite a playful way and go, oh my God, there's another one of those funny, oh, isn't it funny how life is? I think a lot of it as it lands, in this month, um, could be really down to perception and perspective. So try not to take it personally and realize that actually, with so many people on this planet all co-creating at the same time, there's going to be a lot of inconsistencies. There's going to be a lot of people that appear misleading and say misleading things at different times. So I hope that's helpful. I had a lot to say about that, didn't I? Yeah, Mercury trine Jupiter, I've already spoken about, I think. Yeah. So that's a nice energy. Venus opposition Uranus. So yeah, in the week before we had Venus in opposition to Jupiter. Now it's in opposition to Uranus. Now this is where if you are getting involved with somebody, it could get even more erotic and even more exciting, especially with all that Venus Scorpio energy in opposition to Uranus. Whoa, that's likely to raise some eyebrows. And yes, you're likely to have great fun and have these very spontaneous attractions and things like that. Yeah, now that the sun is also in a square to Neptune, I would absolutely encourage you just to watch out for what you know to be true and maybe not what isn't. But if you were looking for a time to completely relax and to completely unwind before Christmas and to completely let go, and to completely be spontaneous and go with the flow of something that could actually be quite magical and quite energizing and quite unusual, then week 3 could really provide that. It's really not your usual narrative. So yeah, we are likely to be tempted in all sorts of different ways, and it might just be that we just feel really fun and free and you know unapologetically us during this week right before Christmas. This really can bring about some very sort of deep awakening feelings, where, yeah, the nature of reality feels quite different. And then we've got Mercury sextile Saturn. So I did say that was going to happen again. Um, I'm really kind of pleased actually that it's coming up again, just before Christmas, because it's really allowing us to get our mind back in gear and to really rethink our first conclusions. We made conclusions in week 1. Well, how well founded were those conclusions? Who knows? So let's have a look at week 4. Now, week 4 has got the full moon that is on I think the 27th. So, and you'll see that Mercury is going back into Sagittarius in this week. It's not because it's going forwards, it's because it's going backwards. It's retrograding into Sag. And at the end of the week, Venus finally lets go of Scorpio and moves into Sagittarius. So there's going to be a bit of a change of pace with the Venus energy. Venus, I think, is quite fun in the sign of Sagittarius because she's up for flow and well-being. And yeah, she can be quite she can feel quite natural and quite open-minded, I think, in the sign of Sagittarius. So let's have a look. Now, there's a lot going on in this week in terms of the aspects. Now, rather than bringing up the chart from the 21st, like literally as we go into the week, I thought I'd bring it up with the solstice chart. And I will be talking about the solstice energy in another video, but this seems quite important. So the solstice comes around as the sun goes into the sign of Capricorn at 000 degrees. And yeah, it's at 0 degrees in the sign of Capricorn. And as that happens, we've got a whole series of different things. So the sun is going into a cazimi, the third cazimi, the last cazimi of 2023. So that's interesting. It can bring up a lot of intense feelings and a lot of overthinking. I'm born with my Mercury cazimi in the sign of Sagittarius, which I don't think is seen as that powerful astrologically, although I think it's kind of fun. But yeah, Mercury cazimi can overthink things massively. So I think if you are trying to plan things and trying to work out your next line of inquiry about something, or if you've got a really great project or something that you're really working on and you really need the mind power for it, try and be practical around that time. Use that energy. If you're going to use that energy, if you're going to sort of like think, oh, this is a good thinking day, then put some parameters around it. Be clear about what you want to achieve, but don't be unclear so that nothing gets achieved. It's about finding that balance, and the brilliance that can come up with Mercury Caz is pretty good. So we got that right at the start of the solstice. And I do think that theme is going to carry on for the whole of the month, the whole of the new season, seeing as it's there at the time of the solstice. That's pretty cool. And of course, Mercury is also retro into Sagittarius the next day, but it's already retrograde. So it's a retrograde cazimi on the day of the new season. I think that's pretty strong. To me, that's saying we've got a chance to rethink everything that we've ever thought, and that this whole new season of winter from the 22nd of December right the way through to, I think, the 20th or 21st of March, or it might even be the 19th, can't quite remember. And it does vary. But anyway, this next season could be one where everybody's doing this really big rethink and everyone's got this kind of great mental power. But I will talk about this in another update. Mars is trine the North Node, so that's great. There's a feeling of ongoing purpose and destiny, like we're on the right track. The Sun is in a sextile to Saturn. That's great news. There it is. And Mercury's in a sextile to Saturn, as we already know. So that's all good. That's very helpful for us. It really helps us take some steps forward, and obviously, this energy is in the sign of Capricorn, which really helps us to start to move again. Then Venus is going trine into Neptune, into a trine with Neptune. So where's Venus? Here she is. And where's that trine? There it is. So this is later on in the week. Now, I said Neptune's a higher harmonic of Venus, and Venus, the goddess of love and flow and all that jazz and creative. She's deeply creative and really wants things to be really nice and felt in a beautiful way by everyone. In this trine to Neptune, things could get sort of otherworldly. Things could get very loving. The way we love people could go up an octave. I do think we're going to be likely very idealistic at this time. I think it could be a really great time to meet somebody new who really matches our values. And yet I would still, if I was to meet somebody at this time, I'd be saying, okay, I just want to double check a few things, because the idealism and the feeling of love and exaltation that I see with this, especially seeing as they're both in water signs, which is really nice. Okay, Neptune's in his own sign. But I would absolutely say that that here, and Venus actually, she's, if you're going to use planetary dignitaries and dignity, Venus isn't particularly strong in Scorpio. She feels things strongly, but she's not really herself. So this is interesting. We might be making emotional decisions without really finding our feet. So I do think we could be absolutely exalted in the way we're feeling and ride with it and be aware that it could take us into some great places, and it could also take us back into our shadow selves, because when Venus comes out of this, we might think, oh, where's that magic gone? Does that mean I'm not magical, or does that mean that magic doesn't exist, or that feeling wasn't true? And I think actually in these situations, the feelings do feel true, and yet there's just nothing backing it up underneath. So enjoy things. Like if you're a creative person, if you're a creator of some sort, then this is the perfect time to create. If you are working in music and art and design and or healing or something like that, you could have some really amazing experiences, and it's important to make the most of that energy. It's a great energy flow, but one that could leave us feeling a little bit worn out after, if we've put too much attachment to it. So that's on the 25th, leading us up into the full moon. Now this full moon is going to be in the sign of Cancer. So it's a Cancer Capricorn. energy, and I'll look at that moon in a second. But we've also got the sun in a trine to Jupiter, which is lovely. So if you think about it, at the beginning of the month, the sun was going into a trine with Chiron and then the North Node. Now it's going into a trine with Jupiter. I mean, what a great position for the sun in this month ahead to be experiencing that beautiful feeling of healing and that feeling of direction and growth. And now to feel that sense of well-being and expansion. I love that. And of course, Mars is also going to go there at some point in the near future. So it's a really nice feeling. We've got Mercury in a conjunction with Mars, which will be a very strong day for us to take action, but also a day to watch out for in case we've got some sort of disputes with people. We may well stand up a little bit too strong. So, watch out for that. God, all I seem to be saying is watch out for that, balance that out. It's so funny. I imagine, my parents would say, oh my God, that's just so unlike Louisa. She's so all or nothing. And now I'm in this place of, let's be as balanced as possible. It's funny, isn't it, how we change? And then the sort of like passing out parade in terms of the slower moving planets and the aspects, I think, is Mars square Neptune. So yes, we've had the sun in a square with Neptune. It's not on this list, but the sun has been in a square with Neptune and still is at this point. But at the end of the month, Mars actually goes into an exact square with Neptune. And then again, it can feel a bit disempowering. I think the Mars and Neptune energies, when they're flowing, they can be very much full of empowerment because we feel like there's some kind of spiritual quest or soul-based energy that's really egging us on. And yet, with Mars in a square to Neptune, I've noticed that it can show up in things like autoimmune things, exhaustion, where your mind and your worries really affect the physicality. So we might just be a bit exhausted and worn out at the end of the month. So I would probably, and I will give some advice, like I said, for an end of year solstice show, maybe that's how I'll do it. But yeah, I would be mindful as we're going into as we're in week 3, we're sort of quite excited and flying high, really. And some of us will be high as a kite. And week 4, there's just so much going on that I think towards the end, it's really time to give yourself a bit of a break and to enjoy the energies, but don't enjoy them in a stressed out state. Like, prepare for them. These lovely trines from the sun are really giving us the chance to feel accomplished right at the end of this year. And if you think about the energy of the sun and some of these outers in this year, we've had a lot of really tough energies to deal with, and yet this is really, really nice. This is helping us to end on quite a positive note, I would say. So there you go. And then here's the full moon chart, just so you can appreciate it. So you got the sun in Capricorn and the moon in Pisces, in Cancer at 4 degrees. If you've got anything around this in your chart, then, this is going to be activated. It's going to be lit up. Mars and Mercury are together. Mercury is retrograding towards Mars and Mars is moving in the direction of Mercury. So, there is that energy playing out. It's interesting. I always think the the Capricorn and Cancer polarity is very much about the old, stodgy, sort of grandfather. And I think of the young maiden or the grandma or the mum. The Cancer energy is very much about home and family and the tradition. And yet Saturn also has a love of tradition, but also a love of building something new, but slowly. So we've got this slow energy here, followed by this energy where the emotions change on a moment by moment basis. If you think the sign of Cancer is ruled by the moon, and so here the moon is in her own sign. So it's an interesting sort of young versus old energy at the time of this full moon, which is on the 27th, just after Christmas. And if you think about it, we're into the winter season at this point. So yeah, we might actually be feeling the sort of tension between old and new, young and old, traditional and new, and all of those kind of tensions. And also the tension between family and career, because, you know, if you think Cancer normally rules the 4th house and Capricorn normally rules the 10th house, you know, that's what they're associated with. So you might be feeling already the tension of enjoying being at home, but knowing that you spend most of your life out of the home. And all of those kinds of tensions exist within the body. Like, we hold them still when we have those kind of thoughts that we can't quite work out. So it could be quite a tense time. I think it'd be a great time to get some time on your own if you're not enjoying your time with your family. And I also think it's a time to make sure all of your inner structures are working really well. You know, the sign of Capricorn is very much about being fit for purpose and to have a long game, you know, not to expect it all to happen overnight. I would say be patient with yourself. What's really helping this, I think, is this lovely, lovely trine to Saturn. And of course, Saturn's in a lovely sextile here. And of course, Saturn is the ruler of where the sun is. So I think these are working really nicely. There's a chance for us to be quite young and youthful and also wise, you know, so we can play with our inner child, we can play with our adult and our parental side. You know, we don't have to be one or the other. We can integrate all of those energies within us, you know. So like, you might be at some family do still, and there might be some young kids, some like younger nephews or cousins or something, or, you know, your own children. You know, this is a time when you can play with them and enjoy it and learn from the process, and remind yourself what it's like to be a small child. Remind yourself to be vulnerable. What's it like to be vulnerable, and to rely on grown-ups to help you. And you might also be looking at some of your older relatives and thinking, crikey, what's it like to be them? What's it like to be in a body that's changing? Even though your spirit's probably still the same, you probably still feel 20 years younger. What's that like? So this is a time full of this full moon, it carries tension, but actually it also carries, I think, an integration, a promise of integration. But, you know, what I didn't say is, like, the moon is actually in opposition to Mercury and Mars. If things blow up, you know, which they can do when you spend a lot of time with people and don't get much space for yourself, things could come up. But given that Mercury is involved, Mars is involved, and the moon's involved, I think it could actually work out quite easily. You know, it could be something that blows up quite quickly and then relaxes. Another indication is things blowing up. But looking for a peaceful resolution would be Venus separating from her opposition with Uranus. You know, there is the excitement and there is that sort of unstable emotions and feelings. So yeah, it could be a bit of a choppy day, but Saturn here is actually the savior as far as I can see. So hopefully that's been helpful to understand the energies of December from week 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, with the new moon and the full moon, a little bit about the solstice. And if you want to know more about the sign by sign forecast, then look out for that video, which I'm launching at the same time. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. If you've enjoyed it, please do subscribe. I never asked people to subscribe, actually. It's been ages since I've done that. But if you like this and you'd like to see more of it, subscribe, because I could easily get lost. You know, there are so many great astrologers out there and so many things on YouTube that just grab your attention. So if I am your flavor right now, please do subscribe and follow me. And if I can be of any help in preparing for your new year or working something out, then just give me a shout. It's louisatannermunson@gmail.com. And I'm always here. So anyway, lots and lots of love to you. Have a great month ahead, and hopefully catch you in the new year. Bye for now.